Hello and welcome to instalment 14 of Yorkcraft. We've done quite a lot of street work and completed a few buildings on this one, so we'll get straight into it. Anyone who's watched the earlier videos will recognise this as St Mary's Abbey, which nowadays are the ruins inside the museum gardens on the northwest of the city. And I've done the cross sections as this street here is the new Lendal, which will head down towards the river, which means just on our right would be Blake Street, where McDonald's is nowadays. And I've just added this map in the bottom corner. This is a printout of the 1500s layout, and all the areas I've coloured in are bits that I've planned. So the red are the roads, the yellow is the walls and churches, and the blue are the building complexes. Ahead of us now is Stonegate, and I've done a lot of the front facade walls at the top end, so we'll come and look at that in a bit more detail later on. For now, if we come down Little Stonegate, which is the bottom left diagonal line on the red plan, a lot of this area was built up in the 1800s, so I'm probably going to have to wait a little while before I can build the actual houses that were on there. And directly ahead is the ground plans for Bali Hall, which is a 1980s reconstruction of a 1500s hall. And looking back on the map, we're now on Swinegate, which means directly ahead, eventually on the right, will be St Sampson's Church and Pivney, which is another 1500s pub. Now we're just coming back towards King's Square on our right, with Low Petergate on the left, and directly ahead is Gudrum Gate, which means we're starting to get towards the church, which is now fully completed. This is something I've covered a little bit in previous episodes, so I won't go into too much, but basically the full church is now done, and I just need to do a bit more foliage around the gardens, in the back corner and on the trees. All the windows are done, and coming round to this end, this is the eldest side, the 12th century Norman one. Anyone who knows the church will see that I haven't put the brick sections in, and when we go indoors you'll see the inside of the roof's different as well, and the vestry is not there. That's because in the 1580s there was actually a fire, and that's what added all of the brick sections when it was crudely repaired, as it was quite a poor church back in the day. And coming in, you can also see I've kept the Victorian style pews, as that's one of the biggest parts of the church's character. They're technically out of date. And this section that we're just coming into now on the left hand side, that had been the original vestry. And then moving over to the back corner, looking at the plans, there was no concrete evidence to say this is where the ladder to the bell tower was, but it is a little bit thicker than the other one, so I presume that's where it went. And obviously I've designed a proper little bell for it as well. The sides aren't bricked up now because of obviously the original fire. And that's pretty much it for that one. In the next instalment we'll probably see these houses on the right hand side start to rise, as they are there in real life, and some of the oldest houses in York. Coming back over, we've now started to build the front end of the Minster School as well, which originally would have been part of the old deanery. Heading over the Strensel mansion, you can see more of the windows and a few of the floors have been put in now. And the reason we're heading this way now over the Wistow mansion is to see the gatekeeper's house. And this photo up on the right is the only photo I've got of this. I think it's a sketch from the 1600s. So the inside is kind of artistic licensing, but I've tried to follow the rules of the building. So we've got the fireplace just there in the back door. And the staircase I think would have gone here, but that is only 2 stories high, so I've had to put the roof staircase just in this back corner. You can see every floor does still have all its fireplaces, and I've done the roof supports and everything. I presume this would either be loft storage or another bedroom. Over the course of the next few instalments we are going to see a lot more houses like this cropping up in different shades and textures on College Street, Old Walk, maybe Oglethorpe, as well as Low and High Petergate, Gudrum Gate, and I have started Stonegate, so more of that will be getting built. And who knows, if these videos do get more popular, I might be able to host public events where people actually come on and build the interiors when I'm online. And while I am mentioning that, I did get to 50 subscribers as of editing this video. I never thought I'd get to that, so to the 4 that have subscribed since the last one, thank you, it does really, really mean a lot. So we fly over the Constantine the Great statue for the last time. We'll come down Minster Gates, through the Minster Gate, and onto the corner of Stonegate and High Petergate. A lot of these buildings are just facade fronts, as obviously I don't have access to them in COVID times. But if we come through here, the windows are actually quite clear in this shop, so you can see through and see how it looks inside. And I think it'll be slow progress, as technically all of this is one building that's all connected to itself. The plans have changed a lot from now to the 1500s. Well, one interesting bit, we have a little snippet here to a 12th century Norman house or a prebendal house. This was a stone house built for one of the higher church officials of the Norman cathedral. Maybe in the 1500s this would have been more built up, but as you can see from the picture, this is how it looks nowadays. The next thing we're going to look at is a building very close to the hearts of a lot of York locals. It's one of the more famous pubs, although we'll quickly look in this shop next door to it, as back in the 1500s this all would have been connected, and then come back through. Many locals will probably recognise this. This is nowadays the House of Trembling Madness, with the front being a coffee shop and that bit we first looked at being a handbag shop. Although the plans would have changed a lot, so if we look at the back, this is the wall for the prebendal house, which is now the back wall of the building. Originally this would have connected into the one next door, and going up the staircase which is there nowadays, this leads us into the tall hall back room with the chandelier and the bar in the corner. Nowadays there's a lot of taxidermy on the walls, so I tried to mimic that as best I could, as well as the little snug area where one of the tables is, and the door that connects it to Betty's, which nowadays is a fire exit, as well as that door there, which is never open. We do have a lot of windows which are dotted around the roofs, which were really fun to build, and coming through. This is the front room of the coffee hall. Unfortunately I can't get in much of the building, so a lot of it is still a facade. But now we are back outside. These fronts, anything with a proper facade front like this white one here, is a 1400s building. Anything with just a ground foundation is built afterwards, so that shouldn't technically be on the street. And as we come down here, this gets to the last little bit before Little Stone Gate. Just look back up on the way there. Obviously the more instalments this street is going to fill out and probably become the first complete one. As we come down Little Stone Gate, I said earlier this was all built up in the 1800s, so this probably will stay empty for quite a while. I've just got these pictures up so you can have reference to what it looks like nowadays, this obviously being back Swine Gate again. And the reason we're coming back this way is just to talk a bit more about the Bali Hall in detail. So you've got this little snippet here that just runs alongside. Obviously the photos showing the area of decay and restoration change over the years. This is the main courtyard for the Bali Hall, with the Printer's Apprentice pub just on the left hand side, and then this snippet going straight back through to Stonegate. Turning left back onto High Petergate as we come past these buildings and St Michael the Belfry. You may have noticed in the last instalment that the picture I showed of the belfry had a different bell tower to the one that was built, so that has been rectified, and I've knocked down the Victorian bell tower and added the original medieval one, which was a more quaint wooden structure that just had a few bells hanging from it. So heading back past the southwest bell tower towards Westminster Gate, we can see is now built. There's also foundation levels of cubes just here. From the picture that's appeared on the left, that is St Peter's Prison, which was the prison inside the Minster Precinct. And unfortunately that is the only visual representation I've got of the building, everything else is wrote down. So I do know from the written records there was at least 12 cells in the basement or ground floor level. And everything else I'm going to have to slowly piece together through that one image and just keep reading the records. Nowadays when you're walking around the area or even looking at the picture on the screen, it is hard to imagine a wall there with the prison and all the cottages, but in actual fact there would have been a lot more buildings. In the late 1600s there was actually a law written in the city that limited the amount of buildings in the precinct as it was getting a bit ridiculous. The two bookshops that we'll see for the last item on this instalment are one of the reasons why, as the main entrance to the south transept was actually quite blocked off by that point. And just as we haven't gone through it yet, we'll go through the Deanery passage, which was the tiny section that ran from Low Petergate, did a left turn into the Minster Precinct courtyard, which brings us to the two bookshops by the door and the end of the video. And these would have been quite quaint, small ones that would only really sell religious books. And I'm not sure when the next instalment is going to be out. I have done a little bit, but nowhere near as much as in between this instalment and 13. I'm probably going to try and bring out some space engineer creation videos just to kind of keep things going. So until then, stay crafty. Thank you very much.